and thank you so much for joining us today for What Matters to Me and Why. I'm Navtha, and I am the Director of Annual Alumni Events at the Student Alumni Association, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you here today. Uh, so to give everyone a brief overview of how this event is going to look like, we are going to start off with a moderated discussion with our guest speaker. And this discussion will be led by Jeff Minhas, who is the Executive Director of the Alumni Association. This segment is going to last approximately 30 minutes, after which I will open it up to audience questions. So I will be relaying any questions that the audience has to our guests. So whatever questions that you have during the duration of the event, feel free to type them into the chat and I will get to those questions for you. After the audience Q&A, we have an optional networking session where you can join us and interact with our guests, and you will be divided into small groups to facilitate better interaction and networking, and you can get to know each other during that time. So just some housekeeping rules for everyone to keep in mind. Please make sure that you are muted at all times. If you're willing to, please turn on your cameras, although this is optional, but I would love to see your faces. And also just be on the lookout for future events organized by the Student Alumni Association. We have dinners with anteaters coming up on November 20th. And this is another great opportunity for you to interact with alumni from your field and build those connections. I will hand it over to Jeff now.
Thank you, Navda. Appreciate the intro, and I really thank you for helping put this event together and the entirety of the Student Alumni Association. I know many members are here for this event, as well as students and alumni in the audience I see as well. So welcome everybody. As Navda said, I'm Jeff. I'm from the UCI Alumni Association. Thrilled to be here. And this is yet another phenomenal occasion to get together because we have incredible alumni to highlight, celebrate, and learn from. And the Alumni Association is dedicated to programming for all alumni and students so that we can learn from each other as we build a tighter anteater community. You may not know, but we have 220,000 alumni around the world on top of the 36,000 students here on campus. And this is growing stronger and stronger with our anteater network. At the Alumni Association, we have so many different outlets of programming that we offer, be it mentorship opportunities through the anteater network, plethora of alumni events and virtual content. Last year alone, we did 180 events. So one every other day, pretty much, for you, the alumni and student community. And we have much more: Alumni Association membership, scholarship programs, travel, and more. So we're thrilled that you're here and joining us for this event. Feel free to share the recording of this event afterwards to your classmates, other alumni on your social media, because we love to get the word out and get more alumni engaged. That's what we're here for. So very excited for this event, and in particular, our featured speaker. So now I'm going to introduce him. So I'm going to welcome Johnny Huo to the virtual stage. Johnny is the founder and CEO of NZXT, a computer hardware manufacturer of cases, components, and accessories for the PC gaming market. Founded in 2004, NZXT was born out of Johnny's lifelong passion for video games, coming together with his deep commitment to design and tech. The company officially launched while Johnny was studying at UCI and has continued to grow as the needs of the PC gaming community has evolved. I'll just add a side note about myself. When I was a student at UCI, I was also very into video games and certainly did not have the wherewithal to launch a company as a student as Johnny did and lead it to success. So goals. With the purpose of serving the PC gaming community, NZXT is relentless in making the PC gaming and building experience achievable and seamless for everyone. When Johnny isn't connecting the gamers with the tools they need to create and build their custom PCs, he's raising two future gamers, building amazing Lego sets, and figuring out how to help the gaming and tech communities. Johnny is also an advisor at Akea, which is focused on transforming the coffee brewing experience by creating new accessories, technologies, and software for the specialty coffee industry. He received his Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering at UC Irvine. Everyone, please give a virtual round of applause welcoming Johnny to the stage. Hi, Johnny.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for
Going
that
very
warm
well.
welcome.
Yeah. Welcome, Johnny. We're excited to have you. Full disclosure, this is not your first alumni event speaking. We had the pleasure of pre-pandemic having an event focused on various aspects of esports. And Johnny, you came to the Newkirk Alumni Center on campus and did a great panel talk. Did you enjoy your experience doing that?
Yeah, and it's crazy how much that has changed and evolved over the past 5 years, and with the pandemic, kind of took everything into overdrive. But honestly, I am actually I'm not a virtual person, but I am a virtual person. I'm more comfortable in a virtual environment. So that was being up on stage is always tougher for me, but this virtual thing works out well for me.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, here we are. Now we're in your comfort zone. That's great. Great. So we want to learn about you. We want to learn about your career path and what drives you to success. So let's start learning about you in the common ground that we all have as anteaters. Can you harken back to your days at UCI? Maybe tell us about how your journey to and during UCI played out for you.
Yeah, so I was doing my undergrad at UC in computer engineering because I had always been around computers at a young age, so it seemed natural. It was like major had computer in it, so signed up. I've been playing games at a very young age, and as I mentioned in chat, the speeds of the dorms were amazing at the time. No one was getting that type of internet speeds at home, so it was a great environment for serving a passion in gaming. Probably not conducive to having an amazing academic grades. At the same time, World of Warcraft had just launched. It's really old now, but at the time it was World of Warcraft, Blizzard, and they weren't even Activision Blizzard then, and Counter-Strike or something back in the day. But it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah. So I know exactly what you mean, because when I was a freshman in 1999 in the dorms, I believe was the first year that we had was it a T1 line, like high-speed internet to the dorms. Coincidentally, the first year that the ARC opened up. So that was a good year to start UCI. But we were playing Counter-Strike like a lot. And then I remember when World of Warcraft came out, which is still going. So what were your choice games? Was it WoW? Were you playing anything else?
Definitely Counter-Strike and World of Warcraft. Yeah, friends have a way of doing things with to you that are probably not great for you long term. Like we would do this thing where like I would buy a copy for a friend, and then they would buy a copy for the next friend, but eventually, get everyone hooked onto World of Warcraft. It's a horrible thing because then everyone's grades suffered.
Yeah, well, it takes a lot of time. Now, that actually is a good segue, because you were a student, you had your hobbies, your passions, yet somehow you had the drive to turn this into something which has now stood the test of time. How did you juggle your experience at UCI and building a company at the same time while you were here?
Yeah, I frankly, just on the UCI side, I mean, it really starts to get challenging, but like year 3, year 4 in computer engineering, where you're doing kind of your general kind of courses in the first 2 years, I gotten this idea to start the company in my junior year, and it was right at the time when the classes got really hard. So this is one of the main reasons ultimately why I reconnected with the school, and Goran's heard me express this multiple times, but I struggled actually trying to keep up in grades and I was on the brink of actually not making it, academic probation. And it just happened at the same time I was starting NZXT, and I would like be carrying my, back in the day, I don't know if they're still like this, but midterm books were really thick. Like it was like, I don't know, it's gotta be like 20 pounds of books you're carrying or something. So like I'm carrying these books to like China to visit our suppliers to prep, because I'm preparing for midterms. And like, my grades weren't great, because I was like trying to go to suppliers, and during break, and the dean at the time like gave me a kind of a pass, like, okay, you're doing this business thing, but you've got like one more chance, or you're kind of done, right? So, and I was able to make up my grades. Got into some great study groups, that helps. And my life, I think, would have taken a completely different turn that had it not been that chance he gave me, because I think I would have had to change schools, and that would have distracted me from the business. Who knows, right? So I'm very thankful and grateful for that pivotal decision the school kind of made, and how it's impacted me. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. What's also incredible is the fact that you were already meeting with suppliers in China when you were a student. So you had a passion for gaming. You were a computer engineering student. Talk about, because I know a lot of students and a lot of budding entrepreneurs in general have this challenge of, how do you take a passion and turn it into a business? And I know you were probably building computers, and you saw market there. What was your mindset to take it from a hobby to a business, all the while you were a student?
Yeah. uh, I think there's definitely some. First of all, the first couple of years, what we were doing, whether it's the website or the packaging or the product design, it was clear I didn't know what I was doing. Like it was clear this is a 19-year-old trying to start his business. So I didn't have a background in design, but I always loved design. So like Cal State Long Beach was down the street, and I got certified in 3D modeling there. And like I took 2 courses there, got 3D modeling certified kind of on the weekends. I mean, a couple of months you can get 3D modeling done. And then, I live in Pasadena. Pasadena is very local to us, and my parents live in Arcadia. So I took some art center design classes at night on the weekends. And between an engineering background where I could write my own kind of websites early on, Flash websites back in the day, and having some of these tools, I was able to basically build a website, design a product, and then like ship it. And my biggest, I think, advantage was I was actually a customer of in this space, meaning 15 years ago, most of the companies in our space were not like had no idea what gaming was. So like me being a gamer and being really in tune with my own customers, like we were able to be like a lot more authentic. And that's still actually I believe the major differentiating factor behind NZXT today. But I was able to brand it differently, design a product differently, and like get very fortunate the first products we made actually did okay.
Wow. Um, so you went out and sought this, got the skills. You're a college student. You had to go to other schools to seek out the skills you needed to take it from a dream to reality, it seems. Um, how about your assessment of the market? Because I've talked to some entrepreneurs before who, like you just said, the companies out there were not doing what you wanted as a client, and what NZXT eventually became. I can only imagine that would be the like large computer manufacturers at the time, like Dell, Gateway, whoever it might have been.
Yeah.
Um, so you looked at the market. Did you find a gap in the market for gamers?
Yeah, I think at the time, like when I was 19 and 20, it wasn't as sophisticated as the way you were framing it, but it was like I couldn't find something like I personally wanted. And so I just like, I'm gonna go and make it. Like I think, and just maybe some context prior to me starting NZXT, I had already been doing consulting for a couple computer hardware companies, like websites, designs, and stuff like that. So I had some sensitivity around, like, oh, I could do. I think there could be a probability of success if I went and did this thing, because some of the products and designs I've done for them ended up being kind of successful. So I didn't like dive in kind of completely blind, right? I had some indicators that there was some probability of success, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. Now, I want to just kind of wrap up your journey at UCI before we move on. So you had that chance that kind of helped you get to the finish line at UCI. So when you were approaching graduation, were you already kind of all in on your business idea and ready to go once you graduated and could dedicate all your time to it?
I think yes, because by the time I graduated, we had already probably two or three, like two products maybe out on the market. We did one product a year because I was still in school, and the company was also very small. But I already I was really enjoying kind of like the work, and for me, the business was really never about kind of the income or money. Like for me, it was like the fact that I could be in a space where I love doing what I did, and then the byproduct was like I could make some money on the side. Awesome, right? I mean, the early days, the money was pretty bad, like lower than minimum wage type of money like you make on these things. But I was I loved the space I was in, and that always is great to have, because it's what also keeps you going during the tougher days, which you always have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those getting through those tough days early on are maybe, from my understanding, one of the hardest parts of becoming or moving from an entrepreneur to a successful entrepreneur. When did you start having a team around you? Was it while you were a student, or like when did you build it out?
Yeah, it was multiple years after. I kept it really bootstrapped. I also I had all these freelancers and consultants for like the first 4 or 5 years. And there's a really funny story here. Like in the early days of NZXT, if you emailed marketing at NZXT, service NZXT, sales, it's always me, right? Like it's still me, but I had all these different emails because I wanted people to think this was like a company that was not just like one person. And it's super hilarious. And my email was designer at NZXT. It's still my email today. And like every time I tell people my email is designer at NZXT, people think it's a fake email, like because it's like, oh, there's no way email is this, because I was designing the products. And I would, when I go to meetings, my business card would say designer, because I didn't want people to think I was like the designer and then also the guy running the business, and then also like yeah. Anyway, when you're young, you get concerned about how people view you. So anyway, it's just like it's funny.
Well, that is funny and pretty atypical. Why is that still your email?
Oh, I think it's design is so at the core of like what we do as a company. I mean, I'm a technical guy too, but I like design and engineering, like all these things for me are very married. So I keep it because it just just a reminder to everyone how important design is at NZXT. Yeah.
Wow, that's very cool. Very cool. Keeping it true to your roots, I suppose. Okay, so you graduated, you moved into kind of, I don't know if it was slowly, but moved into the next phase, growing NZXT, and had success with your products, started making some money, probably building a team around you. During that period of growth, were there any challenges that stood out that you had to figure out how to overcome to get to kind of that next level?
Uh, 100%. And I would say today I still have challenges that they're different every single time. But the first time you manage um, a, a, a team or build a team, you kind of find the people you like, and you don't really think about org structure. You don't think about function because you're a small business and everyone's wearing 20 hats, right? Um, and I would say that part is pretty awesome, because the first 20, when you get to like 20, 30 people, everyone knows each other's names. You don't even have meetings. You don't even have like, you just like mentally everyone knows what's going on. But So that I would say was pretty okay. Mostly I was just looking for people who were passionate about gaming and passionate about the industry. At the time we weren't that big either, so it's not like we were paying crazy salaries then. So mostly very young, um, young young workforce out of college that was willing to take a bet. We our most tenured employee today has been at NZXT for 13 years. He was graduate out of art center, a designer. So he's never worked anywhere else. So yeah, I think wonder sometimes if the world's better outside of NCXT.
Well, that's the same for you, I would imagine, right? I mean, you mentioned you were consulting as a
Yep,
student, and this is the only place you've worked, right?
totally. And this. I get up in front of the employees every year, and because we've been growing quite a bit, and the first thing I say is, I just want everyone to know that I've never ran a company this big. Just know that, like, you want to just know that, like, no, fair warning, I am learning here as you're on this journey with me, as I am also learning alongside you, right? And part of it is just to express to the employees that and our teams, that it's okay to not know something, but it's like this mindset around like continuous learning and like making mistakes and continuing to grow. That's more important than anything. Like, right, I have never ran a company of this scale. If we do what we do in the next couple of years, I will never have ran that tech company. Right. So
Well, okay, so you're a founder and you're also a CEO. So as CEO, what is it? You just started talking about some of the lessons and mantras. It sounds like you try to instill, but what does being a good leader mean to you as CEO of a growing company?
yeah, I mean, this sounds super like everyone says it, but like lead by example. And when I say lead by example, is leading um in terms of living the values that you share with your team. So we have a whole set of values that we built it, and it's really controversial. The first one is give S, FSH something T, that's our first value. Yeah, I didn't, know if it's okay to use profanity here. So,
It
but
is.
anyway, oh,
We're
okay,
all adults. Yeah.
okay. Win together, commit to quality, every voice matters, learn and grow, build scalable systems, do what you say. Um, I think there's one in there that I probably missed. But yeah, I mean, we have 8 values, and we tell stories about these values at the time. And I do town halls where I will try my best to kind of live up to these values, right? And I think it's really hard. Like, I'll tell you a story about the pandemic. Like last year, when COVID hit, right? We have a manufacturing facility where we assemble computers, right? And then we also have like software engineers, industrial designers, hardware engineers that work from home that make a pretty good salary. And they think about it, like think about if you're like the workforce that has to go in and you're making an hourly wage, and then you're the workforce that gets to stay at home making a much higher wage. Like, there's just that there was a sense of a two-class system like that became even more clear during the pandemic. But our town halls are 100% for transparent and open to the employees. So I got like incredibly tough questions like last year around like, hey Johnny, like, do you care about our lives, those type of things. And like
Wow.
I committed to answering 100% of questions that like, as long as you have the courage to ask, I will answer it, right? And people ask me like really tough questions, and I remember when we're prepping for one of these town halls, my head, like my PR person's like, Johnny, you don't that's a really mean question, you don't have to answer that question. I'm like, well, one of our values is do what you say, right? So got to do what you say. So I guess coming back to lead by example, I mean, like, it's in the toughest moments, like where you have an opportunity to lead by example. That's kind of, I think, what people mean when they say lead by example. It's like lead during these really tough, difficult situations.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. I'm glad you answered that so thoroughly. I hope everyone in the audience can uh, take some notes, because that is great leadership. Listening to your team and committing to answer every question, man. Well, thanks for sharing that, Johnny. Now I've got a couple more questions about your, not you as a leader of a company, but the way you've approached your life. Did you always know that you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
No. And I think one of the biggest myths or like that people like to tell is somehow like the founder wakes up one day, he looks into the future, he sees this multi-billion-dollar opportunity, and then like blah, 20 years later, he's there, right? Like I am not a subscriber of that philosophy. I think it's more like hills, like you climb a hill and then like, oh, there's another one. Like yeah, like you see that next opportunity once you get over big milestones, right? So um yeah, I mean definitely not. I would say even like the first 6 years I started to resent a little bit the business because it was getting like bigger, more complex, and I had to deal with people, right? I had to hire people, like people issues. This person doesn't like that person, they don't get along, and then having to like let people go, not fun, never going to be fun, but it's part of running a business. It's part of managing people, right? And I started to resent it a little bit because I was like, okay, well, like early days, design products, put it out there, people like it. That seemed like very fun, right? And then once once you have people and targets and revenue and expenses, things get a little bit more complex, right? So I absolutely at one time when, especially when I was in my 20s, I was like, I don't know if this is what I really want to do, especially when things were really stressful.
That's insightful as well. So your email is still designer at NZXT, but you had to pick up these skills, I imagine. How did you pick them up? I mean, you're managing a huge team. You have budget, you have operations, you have finance, marketing, supply chain, all these things. Did you, like you did in college, did you go out and try to become an expert in all these different things, or did you go out and find resources? How did you approach that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I would say there's even a third part. But I would start a little bit. I would take a couple of step back. Is ultimately in my late 20s, I got fixated around this idea of serving this gaming community and what the power of NZXT and the impact it could make on this gaming community. So I had a shift in mindset where like I felt real purpose behind what NZXT was. So that was the big driver into kind of like the actions that I took after that. So a couple of things. I think there's always learning through hiring. It's very expensive and very painful, right? You you hire executive, they look great, right schools, right companies, it's a horrible experience, whatever. Or you hire the right executive, amazing experience, and you quickly learn because you're right. This person is working for you. They have a lot of experience, and you're learning so much from this person all the time, right? So I would say one of the things that I think managers struggle with is hiring people that are like smarter than them or like know more than them. But I actually think that's like you should always do that because like how are you going to learn if that person knows less, right? Like what's the right? Your growth opportunities are in hiring people that are actually smarter than you, right? So that's one. I learned it through the hiring a lot of great people, sometimes not great, learned that mistake too. But we've got, today we've got a pretty amazing team across all the major functions. And we're a computer hardware company, but we have folks from like Converse, like Burberry, Vizio, Magic Leap, Activision Blizzard, which is like a wild group of people that are coming from different backgrounds. But I learned so much from my team all the time, right? Um, the other thing I did, like I did actually in 19, is I was like I am falling behind in terms of skills needed to keep up with the business. So I didn't go to UCRM for this, but I went to Harvard. Has a program called the Owner's President's Management Program. It's a 3-year program, and every year you live 3 weeks on campus with other presidents and founders. There's some requirements around revenue, you know, but you kind of have a celebrated MBA course, and they teach you everything from finance to leadership to strategy to operations, all kind of very broad subjects. And I felt so much smarter, and I was also surprised I was able to keep the business running for so long without knowing kind of financial basics. It's like they teach you a finance class. I was like, holy crap, I did not know these things, and the company's still around. uh, and the third one, which I'll make it short, is networking with people. And I started to like involve myself in business networks and other folks that I could talk to about my struggles, if you will. It's kind of, there's these networks for business owners, and sometimes it's, you almost treat like an AA, because everyone, like, they understand how you feel.
That
It's like,
YPO?
yeah, so I'm in YPO, right? So that was what I did then. But now there's all these different networks. There's EO too for businesses are of different scale. But yeah, like business networks, if you find the right one with the right group of people, they can get you through really, really tough times too.
Wow. So you mentioned there several times about learning from others, people you've hired, people in your networking groups, and other executives like you. Has mentorship played a role in your life, whether, when you were younger or now through business? Did you have any mentors that impacted you?
Oh, absolutely. So I was very fortunate to be around my father, who was an entrepreneur. He also had his ups and downs, but he was also in a computer business at a young age, but actually bankrupted the business, started over. So I watched a lot of that, and that took a lot of my learnings from him at a young age. But right around the time I also joined IPO, I started to build this advisory board. So I went out and asked around, like, who knew more than me about like how to be a real CEO. So like the first person I hired was kind of like almost like a CEO coach who had helped other founders. So I kind of asked around my network, because because I had already kind of tapped out of people I knew who was doing kind of what I was doing. So and now we have three advisory board members who function as deep domain experts, ex C-suite executives. And it's surprising, and I'm not that surprised, because I could see that being something I would be interested in one day. But there's a lot of folks with a lot of experience that post operating a business or in retirement, they spend a lot of time advising companies. So I think there are people out there who want to help companies through grow and mentor CEOs. So I certainly had that.
That's great. Now, I want to just take the opportunity to invite everyone in the audience to think of your questions for Johnny. There's a lot here, lots of ups and downs on Johnny's journey that you can learn about. But a couple more questions for you. Hopefully more fun. What has been your greatest moment so far, Johnny?
Oh, wow. That's super hard, but we just that's so hard, because I feel like there's so many great moments. So I'm just gonna call it the most recent one, because my team, we've just been celebrating around this past 48 hours. We launched a service called the Build Kit, and it's like a Lego-esque kit for building a computer. So it comes with these like beautiful instructions and videos, and we like teach. The idea is we could teach you how to build a computer. And it comes in a kit, and it's like the great instructions, all of that. And when I kind of first brought the idea a year and a half ago, like everyone thought it was kind of crazy. like who's gonna buy that? Because it doesn't exist, right? Like you can't get something like that. There wasn't anyone offering it. So I think it's just I am always like the most excited. I kind of live for these moments when you kind of can prove that something that you can create something of value, even though it doesn't exist, right? Because I think that's what makes this whole thing exciting, is going on creating things of value, versus, oh, like, so there's a company doing this, or let's go do the same thing. I feel like that's kind of like boring. I mean, we do some of that too, but I get the most joy out of kind of proving other people wrong. Like when people tell me like, oh, that's a bad idea, I get more excited, because it means no one's doing it, right? Because this is usually why it's a bad idea.
Yeah. So I'm writing down notes that I'm gonna, some of your like dimes of wisdom you're dropping here that I'm gonna recite at the end here. But that's a great moment. How about a biggest learning in your career, or challenging moment that you had to overcome?
Oh wow, I also have so many of those. What I will say, once you accept that your highs and lows are going to be equal, you'll be fine. Like it's never going to be always awesome. It's also not going to be always feeling like hell. It's just a process. There are ups and downs, right? So I had a really, I mean, this past year has just been super challenging for us. So I had a I had a, you can Google this, you want to see, like we had a product where 0.00 something percent of the product resulted in a potential shortage, a short on the product, which created possibility for a fire. The product would catch fire. This was this past year, low probability, but once we found out, like we went out there and wanted to um, like make people aware. Um, Unfortunately, what happened was I think the media took it as there's a media outlet that took it and then kind of like really blew it up and framed it as NZXT wasn't doing enough. I think there were some like real um, accurate things that you mentioned, like we could have done better, but it just felt bad because we were trying to be proactive and it was kind of being framed as we were kind of the bad guys. So, and I had a really tough moment because I understood how much work went into creating, developing, launching a product for my teams. Like people at NZXT are so passionate about what they do, and then to have like the world basically, I mean, shit on it, right? And just feel really bad. It sucks, right? So I did a town hall in front of the employees and I issued a public apology, on the blog, which I felt like that was even less difficult than standing in front of the entire company and apologizing for like, this is ultimately on me. We should have done better. We could have done more. And like, I like broke down. I was reading the town hall statement on how we could have done better. And like, I started to tear up and I was like tearing up because I don't think I felt just bad for everyone who put so much work into that product and that and this is how it was being perceived. So that was definitely like a low moment of like, this is what happens when that comes with being at the helm of a company, especially one that's a consumer company that everyone can see. Like you can't hide behind anything, right? Like like I'm not active on Twitter, but people, you Google, you kind of know who I am, right? Like it's just like, it is what it is, right? So it comes with territory. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So as you said, highs and lows are going to be equal, right? I guess when you put yourself out there in your career, whether you're CEO of a company or you have you're on your way up in your career, same thing. Highs and lows are going to be equal. You're going to have both. So for everyone here in the audience, Johnny, do you have any general advice for those who are current students looking to pursue a successful career as they may be, progressing towards graduation and life afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a hard one to answer. And I don't think I have the best answer. I think coming back to what I think has really made the biggest change for me this past 17 years. So the company's been around for 17 years, right? And just to give guys a sense, like first 10 years, at the end of the 10 years, it was like a company was doing about like, in the tens of millions, put it that way. Okay, but like after 10 years, it's not exactly like an amazing accomplishment or anything, but between like year 10 and 11 till now, the company basically multiplied by like almost 10, right? Like went from a company with like 50 people to a company with 400 people, and we're still growing, right? And I felt like it was because I was clear on my purpose. Like I had like insane amount of focus on what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it. And so I would say, like, no matter what you do, whether it's you join a company or whether you start a business, like, just, I think it's important you do it for the right reasons. Because in the darkest of days, whether it's at work or starting a business, that is what's going to pick you up. That is the thing that's going to be like, oh, I remember why I'm doing it, and I'm doing this because I love doing it. I'm not doing it for other reasons, right? Because if I was doing it for other reasons, I would have quit like so many times. Like, I think once a year I want to quit this job.
Yeah, well, you're doing it for the right reason. So that's wonderful. So thank you, Johnny, for sharing all of this. Now, I have more questions, but I know the audience does too. So why don't we transition to audience questions? Navda, I'll invite you back to the virtual stage here.
Thank you, Jess. So again, audience, any questions that you have, please feel free to enter them in the chat right now. Um, that's okay. So we have questions coming in, and we also have questions from that participants had entered when they signed up to attend. So I'm going to be going through these questions. Okay, so this is from another Johnny in our audience, and he asks that he's a junior starting a clothing line. And while he has the quality down, getting the company's name out there has been the hardest. So, what did you do when you were starting out NZXT?
I can only speak to the space I was in, but we were very lucky because computer hardware is an enthusiast space. So there's established a set of media. There's not that many, probably like 10 media outlets at the time. So because our product was so unique, the way it looked, the design of it, there was a lot of interest in wanting to talk about it. So that I mean, we had basically zero marketing budget for the first 6-7 years, and coming back to design again, the reason why like design was so important because design was our marketing engine. Like the designs were so out there because that was what people talked about because we didn't have like money to spend on marketing, right? In the apparel space, I think it's frankly it's like 100 times harder because I think because there's so don't take it wrong, but I think the entry barrier to get like making a t-shirt, making kind of clothes, there's just a lot of suppliers, a lot of people who want to do it. So it's just like a lot of competition, right? However, I think like find your niche, right? Find your community that is passionate about like what you're doing. And then maybe like nowadays influencers are really popular. Maybe there's a Discord group out there for it. Like build it bottoms up, right? Find people who kind of connect with your story and what you're trying to build, and you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you out.
That's really good advice. Thank you. Our next question is from Natalie, and she wants to know if you've ever considered expanding your company outside of manufacturing for the PC gaming market.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's just coming back to focus, right? We think there's so much left to do, and I don't know if I have enough time to finish doing it. Meaning that like I'm already 17 years in, I could still see another 5-7 years of gaming, and then I don't know if I have the energy left, frankly, to keep going after 25 years. So there's plenty enough in gaming for me to play my role outside of gaming. At least, but maybe not. Maybe it won't be me. Maybe someone else when they run the business one day.
Of
Yeah.
course. And this is the field that you're passionate about, so that completely makes sense. Um, from Morgan, do you have any advice for students who are just starting out in their careers? So advice related to networking or making meaningful connections?
Yeah, I would just same reason why you're asking the question. I think there's a lot of other students who are probably thinking the same thing, right? Uh, but before I think before you go out and network, there's so many networking things out there, and even for like entrepreneurs, there's always this thing you got to go to. Like, oh, there's this startup thing, there's this tech thing, there's this latest thing around crypto and NFTs, and like at any time, given moment, there's like a million things going on, right? I would just say like qualify the network. Don't network for the sake of network with like an objective in mind, like what am I trying to accomplish, what are the type of people I want to be around, and then then build those meaningful connections, right? Because I find that there are folks, even like founders, CEOs, who go to networking events, and like going to network events isn't an output, doesn't result in anything. You just actually spend a lot of time. So you want to make sure you're conscious about how which network events you're going, are they resulting in a good, I guess, return on the time you're spending. Yeah.
That's excellent advice about making genuine connections. So we're just going to take a couple more questions now. What are some challenges that you faced, whether because of the pandemic or any challenges that you anticipate moving forward?
I feel like I could write a life just a book on today's challenges of the pandemic. So a couple things. Pre-pandemic, I don't know if you guys know, but tariffs, US put tariffs on China. A lot of the things we make are in China. A lot of things the US consumer buys, they're made out in China. So supply chain, especially in the computer world, isn't super easy to move. So we were already dealing with that. And then like last year, no one expected that people were going to take stimulus checks and buy gaming computers, which great for us, but like imagine like Black Friday was tomorrow and like but you weren't prepared at all. Right? So that was what happened. So like overnight demand shot up, but we had like it was insanity trying to get people hired and trying to get inventory. So the growth challenges. I talked about the people challenges. This year we have more chip shortages. So it's not just so you had huge demand last year and then now you're running out of chips. And just the latest and greatest, ocean freight is going up. And as you know, I don't know if you guys know, there's like 80 ships out in Long Beach or something. It's a all-time high. We're concerned about inflation. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. I would say this is top of mind for me, like in terms of like what does this mean for the US economy, for kind of like inflation and all this stuff in the next coming quarters. Like lots of uncertainty, that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think maybe just one last question. You mentioned that you are more comfortable in a virtual environment than on stage in person. So I imagine that you had to do a lot of the latter, especially during the early stages when doing sales or pitches. How did you get more comfortable in these situations?
Um, well, I don't think I'm comfortable. Ever. I don't like you can't change who you are. I don't think I'm ever comfortable. I still hate doing town halls, but I do it because I have to. So um it comes with practice, right? I think if you know what you're talking about and you're like really authentic about it, that comes through. Right? Like even if you're like if you're nervous, but you like again, you like really know what you're talking about. You aren't trying to fake something. You're just like trying to be yourself. Yeah, I think that's always best. I have considered like taking public speaking courses though to level up my game, because in person definitely I get a lot less comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Johnny, for those insightful answers. I feel like we really learned a lot. I'm gonna hand it back to Jeff right now.
Thank you, Navda. And so, Johnny, we have learned quite a bit in the last 45 minutes. I want to acknowledge some of the great just bits of advice. Obviously, there was a lot there, but Johnny seemed to be focused on success by turning his passion to business, creating things of value. Be sure to surround yourself with people smarter than you. Your highs and lows are going to be both prevalent, both equal. Do your work for the right reasons. And then more tactically, network with an objective in mind, which is great advice. We do a number of networking events back when we're in person for alumni. Go to those events with an objective in mind. That'll be more effective time spent. So great stuff there. Now, we're wrapping up the Q&A kind of portion of this event. I just want to thank Johnny again. Johnny is very generous with his time and his insights for all of us. Before we jump into the networking and get some time together, network with purpose, and join me in thanking Johnny virtually for that great program.
Thanks. Yeah. We really appreciate the conversation. Hopefully this was helpful. Yeah, I never really know.
Since I got to talk to you, I'll say it was helpful. Helpful for me. I'm sure it was helpful for everyone. Thank you, Johnny.
Great.